Now, Manchester United are also interested in short-term options, as we've been talking about in this January window. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been speaking this morning to the media about United's transfer policy, and this is what he had to say.
We know we're not where we want to be and should be, and historically we have been, so it's just down to us now to work better. I've been here 12, 13 months, and my experience with the players we've brought in have been good, so I can't complain whatsoever.
How confident are you, though, that with the few days of the window to go, that you will have new faces come and start Feb?
Well, you're never 100% sure something's going to happen until it happens, so we'll update you if something happens.
Ollie there saying that he can't complain, but it brings to mind those comments from Gary Neville before the transfer window began, when he said that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer needed to spend money in this transfer window in order to endorse his position, and perhaps even the buying of players would help his future at the club. Does he sound frustrated there? Do you think he's getting frustrated?
It sounds as though he's saying the same thing, press conference after press conference, doesn't he? You know, he'll let you know if anything happens. It doesn't suggest out with Bruno Fernandes that anything is close. But we've said it once, we'll say it a million times. They needed a striker before the injury to Rashford. They needed someone else. There's been far too much pressure on both him and Martial, and they needed a number 9, someone to lead the line. They haven't got that now, and they need that even more so. You would suggest now they even need 2 strikers.
It's frustrating for Ollie, though. I mean, look, he's obviously identified the players he wants. He tried to get Haaland, we know that. He might deny it, but we know there was some interest in there with Haaland. We know now with Fernandes. So he's identifying his players, and it's up for Man United to go and secure those deals, and they haven't. And you can understand why the frustration's there. We keep asking him the same questions in the press conferences, and he's like, look, I'm trying to get those players in. Can't get those players in. And that's why he doesn't want to admit that there's any interest in players anymore, because everyone he tries to get in, his hands get burned. So I can understand the frustration from Ollie, but they do need a striker.
Haaland was the one, wasn't he? I mean, Haaland was the one.
Then he goes and scores a hat-trick at the weekend as well. I mean, that didn't help, did it?
In 20 minutes.
Jason has tweeted in using the hashtag transfer talk and has said Cavani to United has to be an option. Age doesn't come into it for me on this transfer. We need a striker, and he is the best available at the moment. His experience will be brilliant for the likes of Greenwood, Martial and Rashford. Cavani and Bruno, get it done, says Jason. I wonder what the fans think. Anton.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? The fans, Manchester United fans, have been in touch with us every hour of the day with the hashtag transfer talk. One man with his ear to the ground. I don't know how it works digitally.
Quite a long way down, that.
It is a really long way down. You make me feel very small. Will Brazier from Sporf and from the Football Social joins us. Look, loads of fans getting in touch with us, getting in touch with yourselves. Manchester United fans especially, and they are fraught about one name in particular, Bruno Fernandes. What's the vibe around him?
Well, I think it's the Willy won't he story of like 18 months, isn't it? You go on social media, you see him apparently crying. It's his last appearance at Sport in Lisbon. I've seen loads of tears from him, but they just want the deal done. I think you look at what they've got: Pogba, Mata, Lingard. Pogba's probably going. Lingard not the best, and Mata slightly older.
Is it frustration, or is it just a desire? I mean, what is the mood around United fans at the moment?
Well, I think if you're talking about United fans and social media, and you look at Twitter today, the Glazers out's trending, so there's probably bigger matters than that. But the guys were talking about Marcus Rashford, Martial, Greenwood. Who's going to supply them? Pogba's been out injured for so long. This man's 25. He definitely could do the job, but it's just been going on for so long. I think frustration. Yeah,
frustration about the policy as a whole, especially considering, as you said, the Rashford injury and that hunt for a striker.
Yeah, I think that's the more pressing issue as well. But who's going to supply these strikers? You've got a lot of pressure to put on Mason Greenwood, such a young age. Martial obviously had that massive chance at the weekend, didn't do it. So is he up to the standard they need?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about Martial and his sort of dip in form, and again another layer of frustration, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think frustration's the key word, isn't it? I mean, not just from this level, but all the way up to the board. But will Bruno Fernandes just paper over the cracks? I think that'll be the case for now. I mean, he's not a long-term replacement for Pogba in terms of quality, but I think Pogba will probably be off in the summer.
So the message from the United fans: get Bruno done now.
Get a deal done.
Get a deal done. Get a deal done, please.
And that does seem to reflect as well what people have been saying on the hashtag transfer talk as well. So keep those thoughts coming into us. Plenty of people getting in touch. Richard says, is Solskjaer for real? We need major improvements if we're going to push for top 4 finish. We're desperate for a striker and an attacking midfielder. He says if he can't get them, he should leave, get Cavani and Bruno Fernandes in. Abioki7 says Man United should have already secured their first signing and should be chasing the second one now. And we'll finish with one from a Newcastle supporter. Toon Barmy says, why aren't we sneaking in a bid for Cavani at NUFC? Don't think he's going for that much and would be a massive push for Europe if we got him. Plus, he would be our main man up top, playing every game. That from Toon Barmy 2. Keep those thoughts coming into us. Hashtag transfer talk. We have sent some of the transfer team out and about on the road today. James Green is at West Ham's training ground for us right now. James, you'll be speaking to David Moyes very, very soon. What transfer updates can we expect from there?
Well, Dave, David Moyes has been quite open about new recruits. He wants to improve the squad this month. He said in his unveiling that there was money available to do so. And do the club need it? Well, they're 16th in the Premier League table, looking over their shoulders right now. And they've got a really daunting run of fixtures coming up. They've got Leicester City away tomorrow night, and then their next 4 fixtures after that are Liverpool twice and Manchester City. So they need new recruits. The pressure's well and truly on. We've seen Darren Randolph come through the door for his second spell at the club and perform pretty well after what was probably the longest medical in history. Even though David Moyes said he wasn't fully fit for that game, he still started and performed well. A departure with Roberto, leaving the club on a season-long loan to Alaves after a difficult time here at West Ham. As regards new recruits, well, we saw the club linked with Edinson Fernandes throughout the first half of the transfer window, missing out to London rivals Tottenham on his signing. There's been a few rumours knocking around about Sander Berge, the Genk midfielder, so a tall, strong box-to-box midfielder seems like it's high on the priority list of David Moyes. And like a lot of Premier League clubs during this transfer window, a striker is certainly on David Moyes' wish list as well to support Sebastian Haller. But with just 10 days left in the window, David Moyes certainly does need to improve his side. I'll be speaking to the manager in the next hour.
James, thank you very much. Still to come on Transfer Talk, our attention turns to Chelsea. What does the future hold for Olivier Giroud? Stay with us.
Welcome back. Will Brazier is still with me. And we're going to go into what the fans think of another potential high-profile transfer that's close to completion. Olivier Giroud. He's on his way to Inter Milan eventually. With Chelsea, though, stalling, but they're still in the top 4. What's the reaction to such a senior player, such an experienced player, potentially leaving Stamford Bridge?
I think the overriding thing is it's in Frank we trust. So I think he's made about 5 Premier League appearances this season. So he's obviously not in Frank's plans. Plus, you add into the fact he's a large proportion of the wage bill, I think around £120,000 per week. So I think the fans want him out, and if they can get someone like Cavani in who fits Frank's style, it's the perfect replacement.
I mean, Frank, we trust is a fascinating way to look at it, because there seems to be a lot of satisfaction around Chelsea this season. Yeah,
I mean, you think from last year with Sarri, I mean, he did the job in terms of results, but there's a feel-good factor around Chelsea. If you get your ex-player back in and what a player to be the manager, that factor's going to be there for a long time.
Now, throughout the month, lots of fans getting in touch for the hashtag Transfer Talk. Lots of other Premier League fans just basically saying, we'll take Giroud, we want him. Villa fans, fans from all over the table.
Yeah.
And I presume you're hearing exactly the same thing. Keep him in the Premier League.
Yeah, I'm a Birmingham City fan, but I have to live with a few Villa fans, so I get it in the air all the time. But yeah, Giroud for me would be the perfect replacement for them, sort of in the same mould as Wesley, but with more Premier League experience. And then he brings into play the likes of Jack Grealish, Trezeguet, who can bounce off him. And when he's done it with Hazard, he can definitely do it at Villa Park.
But I am sorry, other fans, especially Villa fans. It looks like it's bon voyage to Olivier Giroud. He's probably going to go to Inter Milan.
Yes, well, Jiggy on Twitter has asked, I really don't understand why Olivier Giroud doesn't start ahead of Michy Batshuayi. Obviously, we were saying that Batshuayi came on. Get rid of Michy, then look to sign a replacement. Plenty of Chelsea fans, as they have been doing really all window here at Sky Sports News, tweeting us, asking about Timo Werner as well. Plenty of people asking about him. Jack says, Chelsea need Werner for the long run. Someone to really give Tammy a run for his money, and he can play on the right wing if you need him to. That's according to Jack. So keep those thoughts coming into us. Hashtag Transfer Talk. Let's continue with Inter Milan. We were just talking about Olivier Giroud there. Where are we at with Olivier Giroud? It just doesn't seem to be moving at the minute.
Yeah, there's not much movement, Dave, must be said. There's not really too much more than what the lads were saying there. Essentially, he's playing the waiting game at the moment, waiting on other things happening, waiting on that domino effect. But the interest just doesn't seem to go away. So you would expect that one has to go at some point in this window. He wants to play football. We've touched on it already. It would look as though Chelsea want to ensure that they bring in a striker of their own, whether that be Cavani or whoever, before they allow the Frenchman to depart, because the last thing Frank Lampard would want is just to be left with two strikers. There's also a suggestion in Italy from our colleagues over in Sky Italy that the swap between the two Italian internationals, Spinazzola and Politano, the two wing-backs, might actually have something to do with it as well. So it's not just the Chelsea striker situation, there's talk that something at the Inter end is holding it up as well. So yeah, it just seems to be stalling at the moment, but there is still plenty of time to get it done. But obviously, games are coming thick and fast, and potential for him to play in those.
And Antonio Conte would also like to reunite with a player that did ever so well under him in that title-winning season, Victor Moses.
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting one, isn't it? Victor Moses has now arrived in Italy and is undergoing his medical at Inter Milan. We've got some pictures of him that we can show you. Looking pretty relaxed, I think, at the back there. Looks like he's maybe going out for his lunch, I'm not too sure, but that's him arriving in Milan ahead of that medical. An agreement in principle has been agreed between Chelsea and Inter, and of course that was confirmed earlier on this morning by Inter sporting director. Now, Moses, as we know, has been out on loan at Turkish club Fenerbahce, but he's not really played much. I think he's maybe played like 5 or 6 matches this season, so he hasn't had too much of a chance. Chelsea and the player obviously feel he's going to get more game time out there at Inter Milan, and I think there's an option to make this permanent in the summer. So that's why obviously his loan at Fenerbahce has essentially been cut short to then be loaned out again, because for Chelsea in the long run it looks as though there might be a permanent transfer in this, and they may be able to sell him for, I don't know, 8 million, 10 million, whatever it may be in the summer.
Yeah, Victor Moses.
Sorry, Dave. It'd be interesting to see if this one does get across the line. He has been injured.
Yeah.
He got injured at the start of the season. The lack of game time has been because of an injury as well throughout this part of the season as well. So, I mean, you mentioned there, obviously, he has to do the medical. I'll be interested to see if this medical does go through and if he does pass the medical, because he has been injured quite a bit since he moved to Fenerbahce, hence why he's not played that many games for them.
You took my point. That was what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Well, I just knew it. Like, well, we've got that thing. Remember when the laptop went down? We've got that.
Seems like Serie A is the place to be at the moment, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, talking about Inter, obviously the pull of a former Premier League manager in Antonio Conte. He knows players well. We talked about Victor Moses. He flourished under Conte at Chelsea, played a really integral role in that 2016-2017 title-winning season. And, I mean, I suppose not just that, but he's won a Premier League title as well, so players will want to go and work under him. Works both ways. There are players coming to the end of their contracts, the likes of Christian Eriksen, who now teams can get a kind of cut-price deal. And not just that, but players as well who are, I suppose, out of favour at clubs. So, I mean, the likes of Victor Moses, who can't fit into Frank Lampard's vision moving forward. Alexis Sanchez, obviously, didn't fit in at Manchester United. Romelu Lukaku as well, wasn't part of Solskjaer's kind of philosophy moving forward. Ashley Young, similar. And then, this is a bit of a dull one, but Italy have a new tax rule. So that also affects players moving over. They don't basically have to pay as much to the government as they did before, so...
Yeah,
never dull when it's
Were you going to say
involved.
that?
I was just going to say that answers a few questions.
Thanks for the moment. Keep using that hashtag Transfer Talk. News from Burnley on the way, and we'll be speaking live to Ronnie Rosenthal. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Transfer Talk. Will Brazier from Football Social is still with us. Well, I want to talk about a man that is completely splitting opinion amongst Tottenham fans. Christian Eriksen. Some boo him, some love him. It's like when Michael Bridge enters a room. Where do you stand on this, and what are you hearing from the fans?
On Michael Bridge or Christian Eriksen?
Oh, yeah, we don't know.
Eriksen.
Let's not hear about your thought about Bridger, yeah.
I think it's very much thanks for the memories. They've had some wonderful times with him, culminating in that Champions League final last May. Obviously, they didn't get the result they wanted there, but this season there just seems to be something not there with him. His application in that Liverpool game was obviously brought out by the fans, some booing him when he came off. And with Daniel Levy, you think he's a very, very shrewd businessman. Eriksen's contract's coming up. Surely take the money and so you can get in.
Well, the longer this goes on, does that stoke the ire? Does it get the fans angrier and angrier? Or does it get the negative thoughts around such a player, like you said, that's done so much for the club? Is that increasing the longer this goes on?
I think the thoughts around Eriksen maybe have decreased just because of the whole Harry Kane issue. There's no replacement coming in for him at the moment. I don't know why they're not all out for Cavani. So I think with Christian Eriksen, it's sort of gone to the back of the memory a little bit.
And your frustrations around a striker, I presume, are mirrored by everybody else that adores that white shirt.
I mean, it just seems so obvious, especially with the starting two up top against Liverpool with Moura and Heung-min Son. There's only so much they can do, and with Cavani, you've got a proven goal scorer.
See, everybody seems to want Cavani, don't they, Dave? It's he's the man of the moment.
He is the man of the moment, but we have to wait now to see whether anybody is able to get him. Let's bring you breaking news, and it comes from Sheffield United. They have announced the signing of Jack Robinson from Nottingham Forest. This news just reaching us here at Sky Sports News. He becomes Sheffield United's second signing of this January transfer window after Jack Rodwell. We've been telling you here at Sky Sports News that Chris Wilder was looking for cover in the right central defensive position and the left central defensive position. Jack Rodwell will cover off the right-hand side, and now Robinson will cover off the left of the back three, and also potentially provide cover in the left wing-back position as well. So Chris Wilder has made his second signing, and he said Jack's got a great pedigree and he will make our squad stronger, but he isn't just coming in to make the numbers up. It's a specific position in our system, and we feel he is the best option for us at this time. Jack Robinson signing for Sheffield United, and it's a 2.5-year deal. Well, let's get some more insight into what it's really like trying to complete deals during the transfer window. We can speak to former Liverpool striker Ronnie Rosenthal, who is now a director of football. Ronnie, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Now, you are an independent director of football. Tell us more about how that works.
No, you want to call it like this. It can be a scout, it can be an independent director of football, it can be consultant. You know, my job in football is to, watch players everywhere, all over Europe. And I need to really give advice to the football clubs on the best what they can afford for the budget, really.
So tell us, which clubs have you worked with then, and what's been your biggest successes in the transfer window?
No, I'm talking to many clubs all over Europe, in England, in Scotland. So, I cannot specify because, people want to keep things very confidential.
So tell us about some of the ones that have maybe not happened in the past then, if you can. I know that Samuel Eto'o was a player that you tried to get to some clubs here in England.
Yeah, many years ago, Samuel Eto'o, a player like Aubameyang that 7 years ago I tried to push into all the clubs in England or Germany or other top league, but it took longer for people to understand what he can do, and obviously Arsenal paid so much money for him, so he's one of many.
Well, let's talk more then about Aubameyang then. So what's the process? Tell us the process when you identify a player and then manage to get him in the club. What's the bit that happens in between that, from the spotting of the player to then getting him into a club?
Yeah, the process is basically scouting. This is the basic scouting the player, watching them, following them, and knowing the needs of the club. When the club needs a special, particularly on the player, they tell you, and then you need to give them the best product, what they're looking, according to the budget, yes. Because you not give a player that is too expensive to a club who cannot afford it, and vice versa. You don't want to give a player that is not good enough for the club. So you need really to be careful and to give them what they're looking, yes, basically.
Now, you don't have to name names here, but are some clubs easier to deal with than others?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Can you say it again, please?
Yeah, I was just saying, are some clubs easier to talk to than others?
Sorry, I'm sorry, I can't hear. I couldn't understand you.
That's okay. Let's move on and talk about Bruno Fernandes, if you can still hear us. Manchester United, he's their #1 target during this window. The player wants to leave, but Sporting Lisbon want a better deal. How tough is it for a player in situations like this when he wants to move?
There's nothing, the player is contracted to the club, and as long as they don't have an agreement with the club who wants to buy it, obviously there is no deal. The player's got to respect his contract, and you know, if all parties can come to an agreement, it will happen. To my opinion, it's all huge of speculation in the media, yes. Of course, I'm not be surprised if Man United are interested in the player, but in the end of the day, if Sporting Lisbon will not have another client who wants him, they will eventually agree the deal, because I don't think there's too many clubs who can buy this player. So if they really want him, it will happen eventually.
Ed Woodward comes under a bit of criticism from United fans. Do you think that Manchester United need a director of football?
Absolutely. I think that not only Manchester United, but any club, whether we are talking in England, Germany, or all the league, you need a football guy to determine what are the targets of the club, you know, because they need to think about the future and not only the needs of the manager, because, you know, manager is staying in a short period in the club, normally, I don't know, an average of 2 years or less. Where you can call it football director, head of scouting, or the football guy that decide what is good for the club, of course, together with the chairman, with the board, with the manager. So you need to try to combine, but they definitely need someone like this, yeah, for sure.
And as a former Tottenham man, can you recommend a striker for Jose Mourinho?
No, I mean, at the moment it's very difficult to recommend things, because, you know, Tottenham is a club that has upgraded itself over the years, so there's not so many players who are good enough for Spurs, and, you know, it will not be that easy for Tottenham today to bring a top striker. Let's not forget that Tottenham spent so much money on the magnificent stadium, so it's I think they would be struggling to bring a very, very top striker right now. They need like to do a willing dealing to see where they get the money from. So I don't know. I'm not sure that Tottenham will manage to bring, you know, a striker this window. But if it happened, perfect, you know. But they need someone that can make the difference. You're not going to buy a player just for the sake of buying. You know, they need really a quality.
Edinson Cavani is a name that we're hearing a lot in this transfer window at Paris Saint-Germain. Is Cavani a player that you think could be a good player for the Premier League, a good fit?
Yeah, of course, Cavani is a top player, and he would be good for Spurs. I'm not sure that Spurs would be able to afford it. So, you know, we're talking about Paris Saint-Germain is a big club, and you cannot kind of force on them to sell the player. But if the party agree on the transfer fee, of course, he can be a great signing for Tottenham. For sure, but it's nothing for long term, because he's already aging now. So, you know, Tottenham need to be thinking about more wise players, you know, wise business, you know, players who are younger than Cavani, for sure.
And you were part of the last Liverpool team that won the league. They're closing in on a first title in 30 years. Are we seeing one of the great Premier League sides at the moment, Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool?
Are you talking about Jurgen Klopp? Yes, I couldn't hear.
Correct, yes, Jurgen.
Yeah, he's done great for Liverpool, and I think that more importantly, he got today the squad what they, for, you know, ever dream to have such a quality players in all departments. So he's enjoying today success. I expect him to carry on also for next season, but at least it will be nice for Liverpool to win the league after 30 years, that's for sure.
Well, Ronnie, we thank you very much for your time today. I can't quite believe it. We've managed to get through the whole interview, if you can still hear us, without talking about that miss.
I'm happy that you mentioned it, because you would have not spoken to me if I'd not missed this one. You know, so that means I'm a bit important. Yes.
Absolutely. We're just
so that's
watching
good.
it
I'm
now.
happy
We're just
you've
watching it
mentioned it.
now.
I would have repeated it, yes, if you ask me.
Absolutely fantastic. Ronnie, thank you very much for your time here on Transfer Talk. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ronnie Rosenthal joining us live here on Sky Sports News. It almost felt like I was shouting to North London there.
I think that was harsh, Dave. That last question was harsh.
Brilliant to have you with us. Stay or Go returns as our attention turns to Liverpool. We'll also talk Birmingham and Rangers. Plus, we'll bring you those developments from Burnley.
Hello again. Now, you may or may not know that our guest today, Will Brazier, is a Birmingham City fan. So I think it would be remiss not to talk about his beloved club and their prize asset. 16-year-old Jude Bellingham, the next big thing, so we're all told.
Yep.
But wanted by a lot of clubs. How good is he, and how much do the fans already love him?
I mean, I feel like a proud parent waving off his son at uni, like seeing him go. It'd be sad to see him go, but Man United, it's not often that we get linked with Man United club anymore with being a Birmingham City fan, so he's a tremendous talent. I think coming into the team at 16, physically he doesn't look out of place already in there, and he's going to go, it just depends when.
Yeah, you can see the bulging biceps there.
I mean, they're bigger than mine, yeah.
For those who haven't seen him play, what does he offer?
I mean, he played in 3 different positions already. He played up front when he first came in, scoring a few goals. I think Stoke and Charlton come to mind. Then in behind the striker was sort of attacking midfield. Now he's been playing sort of box-to-box midfielder, very tenacious in getting back. But when it comes to that final bit of quality, he can score a great goal.
Now, you know we like putting people on the spot in this programme. So, Jude Bellingham, stay or go if you get a big offer from a big club? Stay or go from Birmingham City?
I mean, heart says stay, but head says go.
That's fudging the answer. Stay or go?
It's going to be a go from me. Sorry.
There you go.
Sorry.
Go. How could you do that?
I know, just look at his face. I'm sorry, Jude. I mean, he'll be happy. He's going to Manchester United.
Will he be happy? You've taken him to university too early. He's only 16.
I know, yeah.
Right, anyway, yeah. There you go.
Thank you very much for the moment. Will has just sold off Jude Bellingham there, live on the show.
He's a Birmingham fan.
Yeah. Let's talk Liverpool then now. Xherdan Shaqiri has only played 6 Premier League games this season, so should he be thinking about leaving? He is the subject of our stay or go today. All vote now.
Oh, no.
Bit of indecision here at the table. We've got 3 stays and 1 go. Let's start with a stay first of all, Keith.
I just think what he could win this season, why would you want to go this window? Now, I understand there's a lot of good young players coming through at Liverpool, and eventually I think they will come in and take his place, but why would you want to leave now in January with the Premier League title about to come, and obviously still well within reach of another Champions League winning medal as well? I just can't understand why you would want to do that, so stay.
Yeah,
Okay.
agreed.
We've got a go as well. Ade?
Well, I thought we had 2 goes. Because I thought Bridgie was going to go with me.
I'll
You've
stay
just
the whole
completely
way.
decided.
Stay the whole way.
I'm going to take my Liverpool hat off here and say, look, he should go. I understand you're going to win the Premier League title. You are going to win the Premier League title. But he's not going to get any minutes. And that's because Minamino has been signed in January. He can play in those front 3 positions. And that's what Shaqiri does as well. Plus Origi's there. Harvey Elliott, is coming through as well now. So I just feel like his minutes is going to be very, very limited. And look, do you want to stay and, go and maybe start and be a part of a team, or do you want to just be coming off the bench every 2 minutes and
Surely he
getting
stays.
cameos?
Yeah, get your medal. Stay until the summer. And there are a lot of games coming up for Liverpool.
See, there's
They're
getting
still
medals.
fighting
There is
on-
getting medals, and there's getting medals when you played a
come on,
minute,
Addy,
30
come on.
seconds, or when you come on and the referee just blows the whistle and you just go straight back off.
No, I think there are a lot of games coming up for Liverpool. They're fighting on, 3 fronts still.
Yeah.
He played a role in their Champions League run last year, started in that comeback win against Barcelona, got an assist in that game
All
as
right,
well.
all right.
Come
stay.
on.
He stays. I've changed my mind.
Is that a first? I'm not sure.
Emma's done it. She's convinced me.
I think that's a first, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong. Liverpool hat back on.
Absolutely. Right, Burnley have yet to make any signings in this transfer window. The chairman, Mike Garlick, said in his programme notes ahead of the game with Leicester over the weekend that he expected things to pick up towards the back end of the transfer window. Johan Berg Gudmundsson, Ashley Barnes out injured at the moment. The manager, Sean Dyche, has been speaking about possible interest in Ben Gibson. Let's have a listen to what he's had to say today.
Nothing's changed from whatever I said previously. We're not under any pressure at all to think of players going out. It'll be a decision that we make rather than having to make it. So that's a better position. We've been in that position for the last few years, obviously, but that's a much stronger position than we've been in, certainly for the first few years I was here.
He's not played a great deal of football. How happy is he with the situation?
He's happy as players can be, trying to treat them right, trying to get them as much time as we can. But there is a challenge within that. Of course, players want to play. All players want to play. They certainly should want to play. We've got other players here as well who haven't played as much as they'd like to play. But that's the challenge of being at a football club.
OK, so that is Sean Dyche speaking to us today here at Sky Sports News. Keith, who is looking at Ben Gibson at Burnley?
Well, first of all, let's just say Sean Dyche there saying he was as happy as a player can be. It's my understanding that that is not the case and that he's actually very unhappy right now. He's been there for 18 months. He's been unable to dislodge Tarkowski and me, the two centre-backs, who have been terrific, it must be said. But Ben Gibson, 27 years old, has hardly featured for Burnley since he arrived. Remember, when he was at Middlesbrough, just before he joined Burnley, he was in the England squad, and he's hardly had a chance. He's desperate at 27 years old, in the peak of his career, to get out and play football. Now, it's my understanding that Fulham, Huddersfield, and his former club Middlesbrough, where of course he came through the academy and went on to captain the club, have all had loan offers for him rejected by Burnley over the last couple of days. He's very disappointed, very unhappy, because I think he felt that he'd been there long enough that they would allow him to go out on loan. The Burnley side of things is, and you heard Sean Dyche there, is they will not allow a player to leave until they have a replacement in. So it could be a really difficult situation for Ben Gibson, desperate to get out and play football, but Burnley at this moment in time blocking it, and the player very unhappy at the situation.
And you mentioned Middlesbrough there as well. Dale Fry is a player that we're seeing linked with a number of Premier League clubs in this window. What do we know about him at Middlesbrough?
Well, Dale Fry is the next off the conveyor belt of a very, very impressive academy. They've got a lot of academy players in their current starting line at Middlesbrough, and they've picked up some terrific results of late. Fry, centre-back, like Ben Gibson. There was actually an £8 million bid we reported in the summer from Burnley for Fry. I think that was in case Gibson was to be sent out on loan. So we understand that interest has remained. They still are interested in the player. Perhaps it's one they could look at if they allow Gibson to go. But from Middlesbrough's point of view, they currently only have one fit centre-half, and that is Dale Fry. So there's no way they'll allow him to leave. They're currently playing Johnny Howson and Paddy McNair, two central midfielders at centre-half, so they will not allow him to go. So perhaps that's one for the future. But an impressive defender, great with the ball at his feet, and probably one for the future in the next couple of years. But yeah, the next off that Middlesbrough conveyor belt following Ben Gibson.
One to watch then, Ben Gibson, over the next 10 days in this transfer window here on Sky Sports News. Let's turn our attention to the Scottish Premiership. Rangers have yet to make a signing in this January window. Let's hear from Steven Gerrard on the plans coming up.
I think if no one else goes out the door, I think we'll be fine. I think we'll cope and we'll manage. But with what is it, 8-9 days left in the window, you know and I know, things happen, and we'll just keep an eye on what goes on there. But if anyone else was to go, I'd probably have to replace you.
So we'll be fine, the words of Steven Gerrard there. Does that come as a surprise?
A little bit, but given that Celtic are looking to add, they've added a striker as well, and it's, they're still in the Europa League round of 32. They've done absolutely brilliant this year, Rangers and Celtic in Europe. Yeah. They'll have midweek games as well. They're playing obviously this midweek as well. They've got the Scottish Cup as well. I wouldn't ever rule Glasgow Rangers out of signing anyone. They've got a fantastic scouting network there at Rangers. If someone asks Steven Gerrard as a player he thinks who can improve the side, he's never going to rule it out totally. Jamie Murphy needs games because of his knee injury he sustained at the start of the season.
I think, Michael, they're probably, like many clubs at this stage, looking to get players out before they bring them in, and that's players like Murphy who aren't featuring. But I think from what I'm hearing is it's loans that they're looking for rather than permanent transfers.
It's extremely refreshing for Rangers as well, for Rangers fans to see such a settled squad after so many years as well. So it's a really exciting next few months in the Scottish Premiership.
Is it a case then of not wanting to rock the boat there?
In terms of
players coming in?
Yeah, well, I think they've found a good formula, haven't they? And Steven Gerrard has got his starting 11 now, maybe tinkers with it every week, one or two changes. But yeah, I don't think he'll want to make too many changes. The one player that we have been reporting that there's interest in is Stoke City's Tyrese Campbell. But the interest is from both Rangers and Celtic. We saw him for Stoke last night, of course scoring the winner, picked up a hamstring injury. Stoke say it's not too serious, but he is one for the future, one that both clubs are interested in. So not only are they going neck and neck for the title, it looks as though they might be going neck and neck for the striker as well.
OK, Thank you, everybody, for your time so far today. Just time to squeeze in a couple more tweets, and plenty of Sheffield United fans getting excited about their deals in this transfer window. Zodiac says, with Robinson now joining Sheffield United and Wilder saying he's the correct player for the position, does this mean Jack will be a replacement for O'Connell? Not necessarily, but thanks for your questions. #transfer talk. And Will, we saw him a little bit earlier with Anton there. He is on the Football Social at 7 p.m. That is on Soccer AM's YouTube page. And Good Morning Transfers returns at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Transfer Talk, this show returns tomorrow. That's from midday. And Dharmesh Sheth and Kaveh Solokol return with the Transfer Show at the earlier time tonight of 6:30, half an hour earlier. Coming up on Sky Sports News, hear how Ole Gunnar Solskjaer plans to cope without Marcus Rashford. Thanks for your company today.